Yo, so here we are, and another competition season is upon us. I've got myself a pair of bodybuilding shows coming up at the end of the summer, middle of August, and then like the third week of August. Got August 19th, August 26th, and I started getting ready for those yesterday. So what I want to start doing is something I did back in 2014, where I shoot a weekly video log kind of outlining the process, keeping you guys updated with how things are going, my progress, the trials, the tribulations, the failures, the successes, just all that stuff. And I'm actually sitting outside of my house in my car because I told my wife, I said, hey, Autumn, I said, I need 20, 30 minutes to do this video of peace and quiet. Because inside there, got my 2-year-old daughter, got my 4-week-old son, causing all kinds of ruckus. So it is a chaotic situation, to say the least. So I want to knock out this video. And my idea behind this video, this week number 1, this initial video, is I want to lay out my thoughts as they pertain to every aspect of this process, which is going to be training, nutrition, and supplementation. So I'm going to break this video up into 4 different parts, probably be about 5-6 minutes in each part. This first 5-6 minute block is going to be kind of an intro, kind of talk about just my overall thoughts behind what I'm trying to accomplish and all that. But I will say this kind of before I get started today. Many of you guys out there, friends, family members, whoever, you may not be getting ready to step on stage. You may not be getting ready to compete in a formal way. But my maximum goal, my number one objective across these next 16 weeks is going to be maximum fat loss. Well, I'd be willing to bet that a number of you would like to do the very same thing. So my hope is that by following along with this kind of weekly video log series, if you will, you might, glean some insights. Some of the things I might say may trigger some thoughts, may give you kind of a new approach to your nutritional strategy, your time in the gym, whatever. So with that being said, some of you guys might remember, if you've been following me the last couple of months, that I was going to do a bodybuilding show at the end of March. But as it turned out, I never quite got ready. And then on April 6th, my son, Elijah James, was born, and so then I kind of had to shut down any competitive desires I may have had and redirect my energies, if I wanted to the end of the summer. And that's what I have done. And let me tell you guys, man, I am so excited about this competition prep in a way that I have not been excited. I am feeling motivated and inspired and driven in a way that I have not experienced before. And this is why. So when I first started competing, when I first started bodybuilding, and I had no idea what I was doing, like I literally had no clue what I was doing, trying to accomplish, or anything. I used to start my competition prep at about 220, maybe 230. I was actually knocking on the door at 240 one time. And then I would trim all the way down to usually about 190. Well, as of today, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when I get to the nutritional section. As of today, I am 188. So I'm actually lighter than where I used to finish. I'm actually starting at a lighter body weight than where I used to finish. And obviously, 15 years of training, I have significantly more muscle on my frame than I did when I first got started. And so I am super pumped. I'm super excited about what I might be able to accomplish. Both of these shows in August are pro-qualifiers. And the last show I did in 2014 was a pro-qualifier. And I stepped on stage at 180. Well, the judges told me, they said, dude, you've got the size, you've got the shape, you've got the symmetry, you just need to be leaner. You just need to come in better condition. If you could lose about 10, 12 pounds of additional fat, you'd have a shot to win this whole thing. And so you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Because I'm 188, and I know that I'm just going to focus on singles and doubles, man. I'm not going to try to knock the cover off the ball. But if I focus on singles and doubles, I know that I can lose about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds a week. I've got 16 weeks to go, 15.5 to the first one, 16.5 to the second one. I may end up doing both. I may only end up doing one. We'll just have to wait and see how things go. But at 1.5 pounds a week, that would land me in the mid 160s. The last time I was in the mid 160s, I'm pretty sure it was 4th grade. And so it's going to be pretty interesting to see what I look like at that body weight as a full-grown adult. So that was kind of just a sneak peek into the intro, kind of my thoughts, kind of my feelings in terms of what I'm hoping to accomplish and all that kind of stuff. I'll get into that, I'm sure, in a lot more detail as the weeks kind of roll on and as my progress starts to kind of pick up and whatnot. But I'm going to split this video up into the 4 parts: intro, nutrition, training, and then supplementation. And then I'm going to post this to my kind of newly created YouTube channel. And I am going to obviously pipe this out on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever. But I'm going to annotate it on YouTube, so some of you guys might just want to hear my nutritional thoughts. Some of you guys may just want to hear my training thoughts. So I'm going to show you guys kind of the timestamps of where those things start to make it kind of easy on you guys. So I'll be back in just a minute. Going to take a quick break, grab a little bit of water, and we're going to talk some training. All right, so we're back. So we just knocked out the intro, the little 5-6 minutes on the intro and kind of what I'm thinking for these bodybuilding shows in August. Well, now I want to talk about training. I want to talk about my weight training and my cardio training over the course of the next 16 weeks. For the first time in probably my training career, I actually have the entire 16 weeks already planned out. I already have the blocks that I want to do already mapped out. In my head, on paper, it's already set to go. I usually don't think more than maybe 5 or 6 weeks into it, out into the future in advance. Sometimes I may have a loose idea what I'm going to do for a few months if I'm following like a specific program or whatever. Like when I did Lane Norton's PH3 program last year for strength gains, I had the whole 13 weeks mapped out. But that was kind of an exception. But for this bodybuilding prep, I've got the whole 16 weeks mapped out. And I'm going to do, with my weight training, I'm going to do 3 training blocks. I'm going to do a strength and hypertrophy training block for 4 weeks. I'm going to do a hypertrophy-focused training block for 5 weeks that's focused on kind of the 8 to 12, maybe 8 to 15 rep range. And then I'm going to finish it off with another hypertrophy block for the final 5 weeks. But the rep range is going to go up a little bit to maybe like 10 to 20 will kind of be where I live. Now let me talk about my thoughts and kind of explain why I'm going to do that. The exercises that I'm going to choose, I'm not really going to get into that too much because it's just your basic compound movements. I'm still going to squat multiple times a week. I'm still going to deadlift multiple times per week. I'm still going to do the same things that worked well to build muscle. Those are going to be the same things that will work well to maintain muscle. So while my overall goal for the next 16 weeks is maximum fat loss, it's kind of a dual mandate because I also want to minimize muscle loss. So I want to do everything that I can as my body weight drops, as my body fat shrinks, as I get lighter and lighter. I'm obviously in a position where I can lose muscle very easily if I'm not smart, if I'm not strategic. So I want to try to circumvent that with my training. So basic, heavy, compound movements. The first block, strength and hypertrophy. So what's really interesting is the science is pretty clear that in the short term, kind of that 8 to 20 rep range is where you're going to achieve maximum hypertrophy, which hypertrophy, of course, means, muscular growth, which is, of course, what I want to do. I mean, I'm a bodybuilder, so I'm on stage, I'm flexing, I'm posing. I want to have maximum muscle growth. But I still want to include that strength component for the same reasons why I include it in the off season. Because what happens is, while the 8 to 20 rep range may be best for hypertrophy gains in the short term, I have found that by adding some strength movements in addition to your hypertrophy movements, what you're able to do is you're able to get stronger, which allows you to use heavier weights for your more traditional hypertrophy days that are in that 8 to 20 rep range, kind of window. That is best. That is where you maximize the hypertrophy benefits. So 8 to 20 might be best in the short term, but if you think longer term, doing some sets of 5, 6, maybe even triples, whatever, for strength gains makes a lot of sense. Now, for the strength portion of my first block, I probably won't go below 5 or 6 reps, and I'll get into why here in just a second. But strength and hypertrophy is my first block. My second block is all hypertrophy. I'm going to be probably 8 to 12, maybe some sets up to 15. And my final block is going to be hypertrophy, but with more of a metabolite focus. Metabolite is just kind of where you do more, kind of like pump training for all the bro scientists out there, where you're kind of just doing lighter weights, higher reps. I just know that in the beginning, like now, my calories are still pretty high. My cardio is still reasonably low. It just kind of got started today, actually. And so my system is primed to do some strength movements. At the very end, when I'm just going to be dragging my feet, man, calories will be low, cardio will be super high. That makes a lot more sense to do metabolite training then. So I'll be able to kind of introduce some new variation in my training to my system while still achieving the benefits of being inside of that hypertrophy window. But the reason why my strength reps are going to be probably no lower than 5 is because across the entire 16 weeks, or actually across the entire 14 weeks, the 4 weeks, the 5 weeks, and the 5 weeks for the 3 training blocks, my goal is going to be, above all else, to increase volume, to push more volume through my system day in, day out, week in, week out. Volume, of course, is weight times reps times sets, because the science is pretty clear and my own anecdotal experiences are very, very clear. Volume is the #1 driver of hypertrophy, period. The science is really clear. The evidence is very, very clear and obvious when it comes to this. It's about volume. So I want to be pushing more and more volume across all these 16 weeks. That's going to be my overriding goal, my overriding objective. Cardio, let me spend a couple of minutes on cardio. My goal, my objective, as I'm trying to maximize fat loss, what I'm going to do to achieve that, I'm going to start off by doing only high intensity interval training when it comes to my cardio. I've talked about this before in a video that I did a couple of months ago now, but it's basically going to be all out intervals. 8 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever they end up being. I'm going to do sprint intervals on the bike. I'm going to do sprint intervals outside. I'm going to find these kind of innovative ways to do this, but I'm going to go all out and then I'm going to rest. I'm going to go all out and then I'm going to rest. 10 seconds on, a minute off, 15 seconds on, a minute and a half to 2 minutes off, whatever, however I want to, kind of size it up, and however I want to structure the actual intervals is less important than the intervals themselves. Because again, the science is really clear, and my own personal experience is very, very clear that if you want to maximize fat loss while minimizing muscle loss, high intensity intervals are far superior to your more traditional walking, jogging, elliptical, kind of your low intensity steady state cardio for long durations of time. Now I'm going to have to do that too. There's going to come a point where I need to burn more calories, where my diet and my current cardio is just not getting me enough, and my system, there's only so much energy to go around. So I can't just keep adding intervals and expect to keep training hard and heavy and all that stuff. It doesn't work that way, right? There's going to come a point where I've got to find a way to trim more calories out of my total energy expenditure, but there's not a lot of energy left. So that's where I'm going to introduce walking and what have you. So that probably, I'm hoping, won't happen for at least a month or maybe 2 months over this 16 weeks. So we'll see. I'll make adjustments as I go. But starting off, I'm only doing 2 interval sessions. I did my first interval session today, actually. I did 7 intervals. On Saturday, I'll do 10. So that's only 17 all-out intervals across the first week. And I will make adjustments each week, and I will increase that to multiples of that factor when we get to 16 weeks. So those are my thoughts about training. Obviously, I'm going to expand on those and extrapolate those out in the coming videos, but that's the basic idea. The only other thing I want to say that I kind of forgot to mention in the strength training section is you'll notice I've got 15 and a half weeks, well, really 15 weeks from Saturday and 16 weeks from Saturday to the 2 shows, to the 2 pro qualifiers. And so my training blocks are only for 14 weeks. And the reason why is because the final week before the show, that's its own animal, man. That's going to be kind of special. And so I'm really only going to follow these training blocks for 14 weeks. And then I'll have the final week before the first show, the final week before the second show. So those are my thoughts and ideas about training. Hopefully that gives you guys a little something to chew on. And as I said, in the coming videos, I'll get into that in a lot more detail. But going to take another quick break and kind of grab a drink of water, kind of think about my nutritional, my little nuggets of wisdom that I want to drop on the trail for you guys. And I'll see you guys in a second. All right, so we're back. And this is, I guess, part 3 of the week 1 video. And we're going to talk about nutrition now. And this is actually what I'm most excited to talk about here today. Because if you guys have been following me for the last, I don't know, month, maybe 2 months, you know that, again, I was cutting for the March show. And then I redirected my energies to potentially an end of the summer show, which is what we're talking about here now. And so what I did between the end of my cut for the March show and now is I went ahead and I started reverse dieting. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to add calories into my diet to get my metabolism in a better position to cut again for some long window of time. And here's what's kind of crazy. So the final stats on my reverse diet, when I ended my cut, I was probably around 1750 calories maybe. Well, last week I got all the way up to 2,600 daily calories. My carbs were well over 200. I was probably hitting 220, 230 per day. When I ended my cut, my carbs were under 100. So I added, over 800 calories to my daily intake. I added well over 100 carbs to my daily intake. My body weight only went up by 4 pounds. I'm 188.8 today. That's crazy. That's crazy because when you start to introduce carbs and calories, specifically carbs, into your diet, I talked about this in the reverse dieting videos, but you're going to increase weight, and it's not fat gain. It's just your glycogen stores are going to fill up. Your body's going to hold more water because for every 1 gram of carbs that you take in, your body brings in 3 grams of water. So you've got that 3-to-1, ratio in terms of grams. So it's very natural to expect in a couple of weeks after adding some carbs to your diet, you should float up 2, 3, 4 pounds. That's exactly what I did. And what's really crazy is when I was at about 2,500 calories, my body weight was staying steady. And I'm not doing cardio right now. I didn't do cardio for like 5 weeks. And that is like very unusual for me. 2,500 calories, my body weight was staying steady. Because my metabolic rate was improving. My metabolism was catching up. Because when you cut down for a long period of time, your metabolism slows down. And so you can't expect to keep burning through calories at the same rate that you were burning through calories when you started the diet. And so, but by adding calories, by feeding your system, by giving your body more energy to work through, you give your metabolism, your metabolic rate, your metabolic capacity, an opportunity to improve or to repair itself, if you will. And that's what I really felt mine doing. At 2,500 calories, my body weight was staying the same. When I got to 2,600, 2,650, that's when I could start to see, all right, I'm starting to spill over a little bit. I started to push the edges on 189, even 190 on a couple of days here at the end. So I am starting at a much higher caloric intake than I've ever started at. And not only that, but here's probably the coolest part about all this. I've been keeping data. I've been diligently tracking my macros and counting everything for months and months and months. Normally, when I start training for a show, I'm just kind of shooting in the dark. I'm just kind of like, all right, I've kind of gotten too fat. I've kind of put on too much weight. I want to train for a show. And again, I'm usually 210, 215, 220, maybe 205. And I would cut down to, 190. Even the last show I cut down to 180. It's the best I ever looked by far. But I was still, again, 10, 12 pounds away from where I want to be. But even with all that, I was always shooting in the dark to where I didn't really know where I should set my calories to start my competition cutting cycle. That's not the case this time. I have so much data going back so many months that I know exactly where I want to start my calories at. So I was at 2,600, 2,650, and I could feel my body weight pushing a little bit higher. So as of yesterday, I've cut my calories down to 2,200, which is a pretty big cut, and I'm feeling it, man. I've got my carbs down to about 145. And by about, I mean they're pretty much exactly at 145. And so I think that I should be able to make progress at these levels. But man, when I think about this, I'm at 2,200 and 145 to start. When this thing is over, I know myself. I know that I can grind, man. I know that I can wear myself out for a couple of weeks at the very end. So I could get by on 1,500 calories, 1,400 calories for a couple of weeks. I can get by on 50, 60 carbs a day probably for a couple of weeks. So when I think about where I'm at and how much room I have to cut, man, I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited for what I might be able to do. All the hard work that I've done for the last, man, I don't know, 5-6 months is paying off now, and I just got started. So I'm starting at 2,200. I am starting at 145 carbs. I'm going to be pretty aggressive with my adjustments. I'm not going to wait too long to make adjustments because I don't really want to lose too many weeks where I stall and I stagnate. I'm going to kind of, and I'll talk about this in future videos in terms of my inside of a given week, the strategy that I have, because I have a certain way that I look at things to help me determine if I should make an adjustment or make a cut. And I'll talk about that later on. But I'm going to be pretty aggressive with my adjustments. I would surmise that I probably need to make adjustments every 2 to 4 weeks. That's pretty common. That's pretty typical for a lot of people. You know, typically you'll stall, you'll start to stagnate every couple of weeks or so. And so I figured over the course of 16 weeks, I'm probably going to need to, make, I don't know, 4 or 5 adjustments. And so my first cut will probably be from 145 carbs to 125 carbs. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking, but I've got to see how this first week goes at 2,200. But the first thing that I'll probably do, or one of the first things that I'll do, and I'll kind of end the video on this thought, is I have a lot of tips and tricks and tools in my toolbox to use over the course of the next 4 months. One of the first ones that I'm going to use, that if anybody's out there has been following me for a while, you know that I love this, is I'm going to start carb cycling pretty soon. I'm not carb cycling right now. I'm just going straight 2,200 every single day. I want to see if I can squeeze a few pounds out of that, a few weeks out of that, and get into the mid 180s, get into the low 180s before I even have to carb cycle. Because I have just found that carb cycling in itself helps to continue to spur progress. The science on this actually isn't as clear. So this may be actually more bro science than it is actual science. But hey, at some levels, I'm kind of a bro. We're all kind of a bro at some levels. And so you can't really fight against that, at least not completely. You got to embrace it at some level. And so I'm going to start carb cycling here pretty soon. That's probably one of the first adjustments I'll make. You guys might see me make my first cut and also start carb cycling kind of simultaneously. So those are my thoughts about nutrition in terms of my daily numbers, my daily macros. You guys know, if you've been following me, I'm a big fan of if it fits your macros. Basically, if you hit your numbers, protein, carbs, fat, fiber, you'll get where you want to go. Just eat whatever you want to get there. And so that's, that sounds more glamorous than it is, because to hit those numbers, you do kind of have to eat certain foods. But if you enjoy pizza or you enjoy Pop-Tarts, fit it in, man. Just make it happen. And so that's it. We got one more little section coming up with supplementation. So I will see you guys here in just a second. All right, so we are back for part 4, the final part of this first week video. This one is super, super long. So for those of you guys that made it all the way through, man, I really appreciate you guys, your support. I really appreciate you guys giving me your attention. I really appreciate you guys, investing your time in what I'm trying to do and, my own journey. And I really, really hope that it's helpful for you in some way. And so for this section, we're going to talk about supplements. And I've actually got my little list here so I don't miss anything, because it'd be very easy for me to forget, but I'm actually taking that. Let me let you guys in on that. So I'm going to run through this list pretty quick and just give a quick line about why I'm taking each supplement, and then hopefully we'll wrap this video up in just a couple of minutes. So I'm not going to count protein powder. I obviously take protein powder, but to me that's no different than really food. So that's already a given. Take plenty of protein powder, so I'm not counting that as a supplement. So first on the list, take fish oil. You don't have to be competing. You don't even have to be wanting to lose fat. If you just want to live, if you just want to be a better version of yourself and live longer and be healthier and whatever, you need to be taking fish oil. Fish oil basically helps you in about 1 billion different ways. from your skin to your cognitive abilities to fat loss to heart health to all these different things. Fish oil just has a myriad of benefits that I can't even count how many benefits it has. So if you're not taking fish oil, you need to be taking fish oil just absolutely ASAP. And take some good fish oil, man. Don't be taking, the crap that's at Walgreens or Walmart. That stuff is pure garbage. That is pure junk. You probably are no better off for taking that than you would be if you weren't taking that. So get yourself some high quality fish oil. I take Carlson's fish oil. I do the liquid stuff. It does kind of make me more of a man to do the liquid fish oil. I can honestly say that without reservation. And so, but Carlson's fish oil capsule, whatever you want to do. Number 2, taking creatine. At the end of the day, creatine's a no-brainer, man. Creatine basically makes you stronger. It makes you faster. It makes you leaner. It improves your work capacity. It basically makes you better at all facets of performance when it comes to training. So that's a no-brainer. Now, some people say, yeah, Jim, I don't want to take creatine because it makes me hold water. Well, yeah, but you have to understand, the creatine is pulling water into your muscle cells. That's where you want water to be. Even if you're going for maximum fat loss, even if you want to be just absolutely shredded, which is what I'm trying to do, you want to be taking creatine. You want your muscles to have water so that they can do the work that you are asking them to do. And by having creatine, they're able to do the work better than they would be without the creatine. So that's pretty straightforward. Taking BCAAs, branched chain amino acids. BCAAs, a lot of times when you eat enough protein, you will ingest an ample amount of BCAAs into your diet, because BCAAs are the building blocks of muscle, and BCAAs and protein are so closely linked. They're very much married in a sense, in that you're eating protein, you're getting BCAAs. But I like to take free-form BCAAs, like a BCAA supplement, and I take the stuff by Scivation called Extend. I really like that product. I think it's a great product. I like to take that around my workouts. I like to bracket my workouts with a scoop of BCAAs before and a scoop of BCAAs after. And it's really pretty simple as to why I do that. Before I'm asking my muscles to do a lot of work, similar to creatine, I want to saturate those muscles. I want to get BCAAs into my bloodstream and into my system right away, so that my muscles have the building blocks they need to begin kind of the muscle protein synthesis process. Then after my workout, when I've done all this muscle damage and my muscles are trying to repair themselves, the muscle tissue is trying to, go to work, I want to give them another dose of the things that they need to do a better job at what they're trying to do. So that may be more bro science than actual science, but I think if we dug hard enough, we could find some actual science to back that up. Citrulline malate. I'm taking citrulline malate because citrulline malate is a salt amino acid blend, if I'm not mistaken, and it is another supplement that has been proven in the research. I don't know if it's 6 milligrams or 6 grams. That's a huge difference. So definitely double check me on that. And it escapes me right now. I want to say it's 6 milligrams, but I think it might be 6 grams. 6 grams of citrulline malate, which again, huge difference. So I'll double check this when I get in the house. 6 grams or milligrams of citrulline malate before you train has been shown over and over and over again in the research to really improve your work capacity and decrease muscle soreness. So it basically allows you to do more work, which is always going to help, because if you go back to my training, the training segment of this video talked about wanting to push more volume, which involves obviously doing more work. So citrulline malate, comes into play. And then the 3 remaining things I'm taking HMB. So I'm taking HMB, and honestly, the science on HMB is not as clear in terms of how beneficial it might be. But there's some evidence to suggest that it might reduce your muscle soreness. The only reason I'm taking this is because I got it as a free sample as part of some other supplements that I bought. So I figured, hey, let me give a shot for the HMB. Let me just see if it helps. Let me see how I feel. I'm not expecting huge things out of this, and so we'll see. Those are kind of my core supplements: fish oil, creatine, citrulline malate, and BCAAs. The HMB is a bonus. 2 more things I'm going to take, and I've never taken these before, not for a prolonged period of time, but I'm taking these specifically for fat loss. And I don't know if they're going to be effective or not. The science is a little shoddy, but it's convincing enough for me to give them a shot. I'm going to take yohimbine and I'm going to take L-carnitine. Now, yohimbine is a supplement that you want to take on an empty stomach, apparently. And the idea is that there's some evidence to suggest that it actually targets stubborn fat cells, like on your body. Now, I'm going to be real with you guys. That sounds like 100% bro science. But I'm willing to give it a shot because I keep seeing it kind of over and over and over again. And I've heard from testimonials from people, and, you know, my man Lane Norton even somewhat endorses yohimbine. So I'll give it a shot and we'll see. But I'm not naive enough to think that this thing is going to start burning fat off of my lower back or my love handles or whatever. But if it helps to speed up my system a little bit, speed up my metabolism, and burn a little bit of extra fat from anywhere, I will take it. The L-carnitine, same kind of thing. There's some evidence to suggest that it could help in the fat loss process. It also may help as kind of a performance enhancing drug, if you will, in a very much a legal sense. And so kind of a legitimate PED. And so L-carnitine, yohimbine, the science, again, not sure. I think it's more bro than actual, but I'm going to give it a shot, man, and we're going to see. That's it. That's all I'm taking. Nothing fancy, you know, nothing special. 98% of the work is going to be done with nutrition and training, period. The extra 2% comes from supplements. And a lot of people have that equation completely backwards. They think that everything comes from some magic pill. Everything comes from, man, I got to be on something, or I got to be taking this, or I got to be taking that. That is simply not true. And, you know, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm going for maximum fat loss, and I am only taking 2 fat loss products. And I'm not really super convinced that they're going to do anything. But they were super cheap. There is some science to suggest that they work. They've both been endorsed by my man Lane Norton, even though he's still a little bit, you know, at least as I believe with yohimbine, he's not sure how he feels. I know he's a big fan of carnitine, so I'm going to lean on him because he is absolutely an expert when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so that's it, guys. There you go. About a half an hour, I guess it was, 30, 40 minutes or so. That's it. That's week 1. I will see you guys back for week 2.